My name is Alicia Morgan, and this is the story of how my entire life was turned upside down by the man I thought I knew better than anyone else. I've always wanted to be a mother. For years, Marcus and I tried. Ovulation kits, diet changes, acupuncture, you name it, I did it. There were months of hope, then heartbreak. Failed IVF cycles, chemical pregnancies that never made it past 6 weeks. Each one chipped away at me a little more. But Marcus was supportive. At least I thought he was. He held me when I cried, whispered reassurances that our time would come. He even started talking about adoption, planting the seed gently. "We don't have to force it," he said one night as we lay in bed, me curled into his chest. "There are so many kids out there who need a family." It sounded sweet, noble, and maybe a part of me clung to the idea because it was the last bit of hope I had. We talked about it casually off and on, but we never filled out paperwork, never met with agencies. We weren't ready, not yet. I told him I needed time to grieve what I'd lost first. The dream of seeing my pregnancy test turn positive, of hearing a baby's heartbeat at my OB's office, of giving birth. Marcus said he understood, but clearly he didn't. Because just 2 months after that conversation, everything changed without my consent, without my knowledge, and without a single clue that the man I married was living a second life behind my back. It started on a normal Saturday morning. I was still in my robe, hair messy from sleep, sipping black coffee in the kitchen when my phone buzzed, and kept buzzing. At first, it was one message. "OMG, I'm so happy for you. You finally did it." Then another. "You adopted? Why didn't you tell me? She's beautiful." Then more. Instagram tags, Facebook comments, DMs from high school friends, even a LinkedIn message from a former coworker I hadn't spoken to in years. I sat there, blinking at the screen, my stomach tightening with confusion. What were they talking about? Marcus walked into the kitchen wearing a smug little grin. He placed his phone on the counter and reached for a muffin like it was just another day. "Babe," I asked slowly, trying to keep my voice calm, "why is everyone congratulating me on adopting a baby?" He didn't look shocked, didn't even pause. Instead, he just said, "Surprise." I froze. Surprise what? And that's when I heard it. A soft whimpering, coming from the hallway. I rushed over. There, in a baby carrier on the floor, was an infant, wrapped in a pale yellow blanket. Quiet, except for the occasional hiccupy sob. I felt my breath catch. "What the hell is this?" I whispered, staring at Marcus. "Our daughter," he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I spun around to face him. "What?" He was still grinning. "Her name's Leah. She's ours." My heart started pounding in my chest. We never filled out adoption forms. We didn't go through any agency. "Marcus, what the hell did you do?" That's when his expression changed, just slightly. The smile faded, and his eyes narrowed, like he was the one getting annoyed. "I handled it," he said. "You kept hesitating. I made a decision. I did this for us." "No," I said, backing away. "You did this for you. You brought a baby into this house without me knowing. You told people we adopted without me signing anything, agreeing to anything, or even seeing her." He waved it off like I was being dramatic. "You were going to say yes eventually. I just moved things along." But my world had already started spinning. I felt betrayed, trapped, and most of all, terrified. Because what kind of man adopts a child in secret, lies to everyone you know, and forces you into parenthood overnight? A man with something to hide. And I was about to find out what. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Leah, this tiny, helpless baby, was sleeping in a bassinet that Marcus had apparently stashed in the garage weeks ago. Everything was already set up: diapers, formula, onesies, even a set of monogram baby blankets. It was as if he had been planning this for months. Meanwhile, I sat on the edge of the bed, watching Marcus sleep like he hadn't just detonated my entire life. My hands shook with adrenaline, confusion, rage. I was supposed to be her mother now, after finding out about her existence that same day. What kind of man did this? And more importantly, why? By morning, I was in full investigation mode. The first thing I did was check our shared email account. Nothing. Then our financials. That's when I saw it. A large transfer, $9,000, wired to a name I didn't recognize, GR Adoption Services. That wasn't one of the licensed agencies we'd researched together. I typed the name into Google. No results. I tried the local business database. Nothing. I texted my friend Claire, a family lawyer. She called me back in 2 minutes. That name isn't registered anywhere, she said. It's not a licensed adoption agency. Alicia, this isn't right. There's a very specific process for adoption: background checks, home visits, legal paperwork. If Marcus went around all that, this could be illegal. Illegal. That word echoed in my ears. I confronted Marcus that evening. You went through an unlicensed agency? I asked, holding my phone up, showing him the transfer. He shrugged. It's just someone who helps facilitate placements. It's all above board. No, I snapped. Above board would include me. It would include social workers, legal documents, signatures. I'm not even listed on anything, am I? He didn't answer. You forged something, didn't you? Still nothing. He just crossed his arms and looked away. You told people we adopted her. Told them I adopted her. What are they going to think when they find out I had no idea? His voice turned cold. You're her mother now, whether you like it or not. That was the first moment I felt genuinely unsafe with Marcus, because that wasn't love. That was control. I started reaching out to more people, quietly. A cousin who worked in child services, a former classmate who'd adopted overseas. Every person I spoke to confirmed the same thing. There was no way Marcus had done this legally. Not without my signature. Not without court documents. And definitely not without interviews, evaluations, and months of waiting. But Marcus had gotten a baby practically overnight. And no one could tell me how. Then came the whisper. One of Marcus's coworkers, a woman named Lila, messaged me on Facebook. We'd only met once years ago. Her message was short. You don't know me well, but I think you should talk to someone named Mara Holt. You didn't hear it from me. Mara Holt. I didn't recognize the name. I asked who she was, and Lila simply replied, just trust me. She's connected to Marcus, and you need to hear what she has to say. That night, I looked Mara up, and what I found made the blood drain from my face. There was a photo on her public Instagram feed, taken a few months ago. She was pregnant. The caption said, due in March. Bittersweet, but I know she'll be loved. And right there in the comments was a single red heart emoji from Marcus. The moment I saw Mara's photo, something inside me clicked like a puzzle piece snapping into place, one that had been twisted just out of reach. The timeline, the secrecy, Marcus's sudden push for adoption, and now this woman, pregnant, and his heart emoji. I felt sick. I zoomed in on the photo again and again, searching for some detail that would prove I was being paranoid. That maybe this wasn't connected, but there was no denying it. The timing aligned almost too perfectly. Leah was just over a month old, and Mara had given birth according to another post on her timeline, exactly 5 weeks ago. There was no adoption. There was a baby Marcus had claimed and a woman he had hidden. I couldn't breathe. I debated whether or not to reach out. What if she didn't know who I was? What if this made things worse? But I couldn't stay silent. I messaged her late that night. Hi, Mara. I know this is unexpected, but I think we need to talk. It's about your daughter and Marcus Morgan. She didn't reply for almost a full day. But when she did, it was just one line. Meet me at Grayson Park tomorrow, noon. Come alone. I barely slept that night. When I arrived at the park the next day, I recognized her immediately. She looked tired, hollow-eyed. She was pushing a stroller, bundled up in a hoodie and jeans. She sat down without speaking, motioned for me to sit beside her. We were silent for a few moments, listening to the breeze and the occasional laughter from the nearby playground. Then she said, I knew he was married. I just didn't know to who. Her voice was bitter, like rusted iron. I blinked. You knew. She nodded. He said it was a bad marriage, that you didn't want kids, that you were cold, and that he just wanted to be a father. I felt like I'd been punched. I didn't want kids. I echoed. We went through years of infertility treatments. I lost 3 pregnancies. She flinched, her expression crumpling slightly. I didn't know that, she whispered. He made it sound like you were the one holding him back. We sat there, both of us reeling from the same man in different ways. I asked the question I was most terrified of. Is Leah biologically his? She nodded. DNA confirmed. He wanted to raise her. Said I could either sign the papers or he'd go for full custody. But I wasn't in a place to raise her. I'm 23, working 2 jobs, no support. I thought maybe it was for the best. I looked down at the stroller, at the baby I had unknowingly mothered for the last 2 days. She wasn't adopted. She was his, and he had lied to both of us. Mara handed me a folded piece of paper. I recognized it immediately, a notarized release of parental rights. Her name, his name. But my name? Nowhere. He'd forged the narrative. Or worse, planned it long ago. I thought you knew, she said. I thought this was your idea too. I mean, he posted pictures of the nursery on his private account. Said you were ecstatic. I felt like I was drowning in a lie I didn't even help build. He manipulated both of us, I whispered. Mara didn't deny it. I regret it, she said quietly. I thought he was the safe option. I didn't think he was capable of this. But he was. And now I knew just how far Marcus had gone. He hadn't just adopted a child behind my back. He had fathered one with another woman, then forced me to raise her as if I were the mother. And somehow, this wasn't even the end of it. This was just the middle. When I got home from the park, I couldn't look at Marcus. He was in the living room with Leah on his chest, watching some comedy show like nothing in the world was unraveling around us. I stared at him for a full minute, wondering if this man, this liar, this manipulator, was even capable of guilt. Or did he really believe he was the hero of this story? He looked up, smiled. Where have you been? He asked, voice soft. My skin crawled. Just out. He stood, holding Leah in one arm. Want to hold your daughter? Your daughter. Not the baby. He had made up his mind, locked me into a fantasy he manufactured and sold to everyone else. But I took her into my arms, because none of this was her fault. She didn't ask to be part of this mess. She didn't know that the woman holding her had been lied to, betrayed, and forced into a maternal role she wasn't prepared for. And yet, something happened when I looked at her. Her tiny fingers brushed my chin. She blinked those wide, curious eyes, and my heart cracked. I wasn't her biological mother, but I had already changed her diapers, rocked her to sleep, sang to her under my breath when Marcus wasn't around. In 2 days, she'd already become real to me in ways I hadn't expected. And that made this even more painful, because I knew what I had to do next. Over the next week, I played along. I was the doting wife, the glowing new mom. I posted carefully curated photos to Instagram, just like Marcus wanted. I smiled at family visits. I answered texts from old friends with "thank you. We're so excited." And in the background, I was preparing. I started gathering everything. Screenshots of Marcus's texts to Mara, the wire transfer to the unlicensed agency, Leah's birth certificate with no mention of me, the forged story he'd told everyone. I spoke to Claire again, my lawyer friend. "You have a strong case," she said. "Maybe not for fraud in the criminal sense, but definitely for civil damages. And if there's even a hint of coercion or falsified paperwork in the transfer of custody, this could get very ugly for him." I asked her one last question. If I wanted to fight for custody of Leah, do I have a shot? There was a long silence. She finally said, "If the biological mother agrees, and she's willing to testify, you just might." That was when the spark lit inside me. I didn't want revenge just to make Marcus pay. I wanted to protect Leah from him, because the more I watched him, the clearer it became. He didn't see her as a person. He saw her as a symbol, a trophy he had claimed to prove his worth. And someone like that should not be raising a child. The next time I met Mara, I brought Leah with me. We sat at a quiet cafe out of the city, and I laid it all on the table. How Marcus had lied, manipulated both of us, and essentially stole her child to feed his own ego. Mara held Leah gently, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she whispered. "I thought she'd have a good home." "She still can," I told her, "but not with Marcus, and not without the truth." She looked at me then, deep, tired, heartbroken, and nodded. "I'll help you," she said. "Let's do this right." Back home, Marcus grew suspicious. "You're always going somewhere," he said. "Always whispering on the phone. What are you up to?" I kissed his cheek and smiled. "Just being a mom." And deep down, I was already planning how to become something even more powerful. The woman who'd take back control of everything he stole. The hardest part wasn't gathering evidence. It was pretending. Pretending I still believed him. Pretending I was adjusting to motherhood. Pretending that every kiss, every shared bottle feed, every late night whisper didn't feel like poison on my skin. But I had a mission now. And every moment I spent near Marcus, I was watching, studying, collecting. I began documenting everything. I wore a small voice recorder clipped under my bra whenever we talked. I used my phone to quietly snap photos of receipts, documents, anything he left out. I searched through his drawers at night when he was asleep, careful, slow, like I was defusing a bomb. And in that drawer, I found it, a notebook. Inside were pages of messy, anxious handwriting, budget projections, custody notes, lists of baby names crossed out, mentions of Mara, a scribbled sentence that made my stomach turn. "If Alicia doesn't agree, push her with pressure. She's emotionally weak after the miscarriages." He had planned to manipulate me. He knew I was still healing from our losses, and he had used that grief like a scalpel. I scanned every page, backed it up in 3 places, because I knew soon this entire house of lies was going to fall, and I wanted to be standing tall when it did. A few nights later, Marcus made a mistake. We were lying in bed, Leah asleep between us, and he whispered, "You're a natural, you know. You were meant to be a mom. I stared at him. You think so? He nodded, brushing my hair from my forehead. I always knew you'd come around, even if I had to force it a little. There it was, a confession. I barely moved, barely blinked, and let the recorder do its job. The next morning, I met Mara again, this time with Claire. Mara brought her own legal contact, a woman named Sylvia who specialized in custody reversals and unauthorized adoptions. Together, the four of us sat down in a rented office and reviewed every detail, every transaction, every lie, every breadcrumb Marcus thought he had hidden. It wasn't just shady. It was borderline criminal. Coercive tactics, financial fraud, misrepresentation of identity during the child placement process, and on top of it all, emotional abuse. We crafted the plan step by step. File for emergency custody petition with Mara's cooperation. Submit documented evidence of manipulation and forged narrative. Launch a civil case for emotional damages on my behalf. Claire said we'd need to prepare for backlash. Marcus was charming, persuasive, dangerous when cornered, but I was past the point of fear. The moment I saw Leah fall asleep in Mara's arms again, peaceful, safe, I knew the fight wasn't just personal. It was righteous. I served him the papers on a Thursday. He came home, humming to himself with a grocery bag in one hand. When he saw the envelope on the kitchen counter, his face went pale. He looked up at me, voice low. What is this? I stood with Leah on my hip. Calm, still, steady. Your karma, I said. He opened it. Read the first line. And then he exploded. Are you insane? He shouted. You're suing me? For what? Loving a child? Giving you what you couldn't have on your own. It was like watching a mask fall off. All the tenderness, all the lies, stripped away. You lied, I said. To me, to her, to everyone. You stole someone's child and forced me to be a part of it. I gave us a family, he barked. No, I snapped. You stole a family, and now I'm taking mine back. He looked like he wanted to hit something. His fists clenched, his mouth twisted, but I stood still, holding Leah close. You should leave, I said. Your lawyer will be in touch. That night, the house was quiet. Too quiet. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like myself again. No more lies. No more pretending. Just me. And a baby girl who had come into my life through the most twisted path possible, but who now might finally have a chance at a future she deserved. The news of the lawsuit spread faster than I expected. By the end of the week, Marcus had called everyone, his parents, mutual friends, even colleagues, to paint himself as the victim. She's unstable. She's trying to take away my child. She's lashing out because she couldn't conceive. It was vile, but I was ready for it. Because while he was throwing emotional grenades into every conversation, I was handing lawyers proof. Documents, audio recordings, screenshots, and best of all, Mara's signed affidavit. She detailed everything. How Marcus approached her while she was pregnant. How he offered financial support only if she gave up custody. How he promised it was all legal and his wife was on board. How she never signed anything involving me. Her voice, calm and strong, echoed in the deposition recording. I was misled, and I want custody reevaluated immediately. With that, the court granted an emergency hearing. The day we walked into family court, Marcus wore the same smug grin he used to flash when he sealed business deals, as if none of this could touch him. But as soon as the judge began reading the case summary, his jaw tightened. And when my lawyer played the audio recording, his voice saying, even if I had to force it a little, his eyes finally showed it. Panic. His defense was weak. He claimed it was all consensual, that Mara had been unstable and that I had given verbal agreement to the adoption. But my medical records said otherwise. So did the total absence of my name in any paperwork. And so did the notebook he forgot he even owned, the one where he outlined how to manipulate me. The judge requested a psychological evaluation. On him, outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. I hadn't wanted the case to go public, but once it leaked that a prominent entrepreneur had allegedly orchestrated a fraudulent adoption to trick his wife, the tabloids had a field day. Manipulated motherhood. CEO stole baby from pregnant waitress, framed wife. The ultimate betrayal. Woman finds out she's raising husband's secret love child. It was brutal. But for once, the headlines weren't about me being barren or emotional or too dramatic. They were about him. And as the media storm grew, Marcus's business partners began to disappear. Investors pulled out. His personal brand, the one he built around being a family man entrepreneur, crumbled like wet paper. Back at home, things felt surreal. Leah had started babbling, reaching out for me when I walked by, resting her head on my shoulder during naps. Mara visited twice a week now. We were building something odd, but beautiful. A bond formed from shared betrayal and a mutual love for the same child. I'm still figuring it out, she told me one day. I don't know if I want full custody, but I do want to be in her life. Then we'll figure it out together, I said. It was the first time I'd meant it. Marcus, meanwhile, began to unravel. His calls turned desperate. You're ruining me. She's mine. This was our daughter. You're throwing away everything we built. I blocked him. Let the lawyers talk. Because he wasn't my husband anymore. He was a stranger who had hijacked my grief and used it as a weapon. And the more he fought to regain control, the more I realized. He never loved us. He loved the idea of us. And now that the illusion was shattered, he was left with nothing but ashes. The courtroom was cold that morning. Sterile. Impersonal. But my hands were warm because Leah was wrapped in my arms, asleep against my chest. Mara sat beside me, gripping a folder filled with photos and receipts. She wasn't wearing makeup, just confidence, that quiet, determined kind that says, I've been underestimated before. Never again. Across the aisle, Marcus sat alone. No lawyer, no press team, no friends. His parents, who once worshipped the ground he walked on, hadn't shown up. His mother had called me a week before, her voice trembling. We had no idea. Alicia, I'm so sorry. The judge arrived. The bailiff called our case. This was it. The custody hearing. 3 things were on the line. Whether Marcus had committed intentional fraud during the adoption process. Whether I, Alicia, would be granted legal custody or co-parenting rights. Whether Marcus would be stripped of parental rights entirely. I exhaled slowly. My lawyer began, calm, deliberate, relentless. She presented timelines, bank transfers, audio files, Marcus's handwritten notes, and Mara's sworn affidavit. Each piece layered onto the next, like bricks in a fortress. Mara followed with her own testimony. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She simply told the truth. I was 19. I was scared. He promised me it was legal. He said his wife was thrilled. I never saw any documents. I was never told the full truth. Then it was my turn. I walked to the stand. My heels felt too loud against the floor, but my voice came out steady. I told them everything. The betrayal, the forged narrative, the heartbreak of being lied to and then trapped into a motherhood I hadn't chosen. But something unexpected happened, I said, turning to look at Leah. I fell in love with this child, not because she was mine, but because I chose her. Then Marcus took the stand. He was a mess, shaky, defensive, red-eyed. He tried to charm the court, tried to justify his actions. I was trying to save my marriage. Alicia had lost so much. I thought this could heal her. The judge cut him off. Did you have your wife's written consent at any point? No, but did you ever tell the biological mother that Alicia had not agreed? No. The silence that followed was suffocating. The ruling came an hour later. Marcus was stripped of parental rights permanently. Mara and I were granted joint custody, with me as the primary guardian. The judge praised the bond Leah had with me and recognized Mara's efforts to make things right. And just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked if I had anything to say. I looked straight into the camera. Motherhood isn't about biology. It's about honesty, love, and choice. I didn't choose to be lied to, but I chose to love Leah. And I'll keep choosing her every day. That night, Leah slept in her crib beside my bed. Mara texted, "Thank you for giving her what I couldn't." I replied, "You gave her life. Now we both give her love." That's all that matters. For the first time in months, I let out a deep, peaceful breath. Not because I won a case, but because I finally knew who I was again. 6 months passed. The house felt different. Warmer, quieter, safer. I redecorated Leah's nursery with soft earth tones and fairy lights. Mara gifted her a handmade quilt with her initials stitched in one corner, L.A. Leah Avery, a name that meant bringer of light. And that's exactly what she became. Marcus disappeared from the public eye. His company folded. His social media accounts vanished. His reputation, once pristine, was in ruins. But I didn't track him. I didn't mention his name again. Not out of fear, out of indifference. He no longer mattered. I focused on building a new life. Not just for Leah, but for me. I started therapy again. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I had ignored so many signs. How I'd allowed myself to be gaslit and guilt for years. It wasn't weakness. It was conditioning, and I was unlearning it. Mara and I found a rhythm. She saw Leah every weekend, sometimes for just an hour, sometimes for the whole day. We kept communication honest, boundaries clear, and slowly, without meaning to, we became something like a family, unconventional, unplanned, but deeply bonded by one innocent child who didn't ask for any of this, but smiled through it all anyway. One night, Leah toddled into the living room holding a crayon and a torn piece of paper. She handed it to me proudly. A wobbly drawing, a woman with curly brown hair, a baby, and another woman standing beside them with a heart between them all. She pointed at it. "Mama, which one?" I asked. She giggled. "Both." I laughed and cried and hugged her tight. The past didn't vanish. The betrayal didn't erase itself. But in its place, something stronger grew. Truth, trust, love built without manipulation or expectation. And I realized something. I didn't become a mother the day Leah was born. I became a mother the day I chose to fight for her. They say family is who you're born to, but I think family is who stands beside you when the world falls apart and helps you build it back again. This was my story, not just of betrayal, but of becoming.